Welcome, everybody, and welcome to Multiplying Good's dual outlook of social work and service, celebrating the accomplishments of women in service roles. At Multiplying Good, we believe that participating in service to others transforms everybody involved in the experience. Throughout our 48-year history of celebrating extraordinary public service and facilitating service leadership training, we've proven that service is a solution to many of the problems facing Americans today. Creating positive change through helping others means building meaningful and authentic connections between individuals. It feels good, it builds leadership, it builds 21st century skills, and it strengthens communities. When people participate in service, they bring all aspects of their identity with them. This includes educational background, economic status, and gender. In 2018, Jefferson Award recipient, lawyer, social justice activist, and founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, Bryan Stevenson, in his acceptance speech, reminded attendees that the Jefferson Award is about celebrating those who are willing to change the narrative about disenfranchised people in America. We know that narrative is often a catalyst for inequality and for marginalization. To help change that narrative and to honor and celebrate Women's History Month and National Social Work Month, Multiplying Good is centering the voices and experiences of some of our staff and friends. Through our programs, people of all races and genders come together to activate, publicize, and celebrate service to others, inspiring millions and changing the world in the process. If you think about it, going back all the way to 1972, our National Jefferson Award recipients include a group of powerful and diverse women committed to service. Billie Jean King, Oprah Winfrey, Sheila Johnson, Elaine Wynn, Kristen Bell, Mariska Hargitay, Supreme Court Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sonia Sotomayor, Patrisse Cullors, Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi, Alexis Jones, Venus Williams, Dawn Staley, and so many more. Today, we're pulling together an incredible panel that brings together the intersection of service and social work. And we're doing it through those who were part of our community and mostly part of our staff. It's an incredible panel. It's diverse in race. It's diverse in expertise. It's multi-generational. It's connected to Multiplying Good's culture. It is basically everything we are. I can't wait to listen to everybody on this panel because there is the power of everything that we believe in at Multiplying Good is deeply steeped in what we see and what we celebrate in both social workers and in women. It is my incredible honor to be here and introducing our moderator, our staff member and incredible leader, Raisa Walden. Raisa, for anybody who has met her, jumps off the page as a leader, as inspirational. She comes from humble backgrounds. Hailing from Baltimore at the age of 16, she was homeless, living with her family in a motel. She committed at that moment that she was going to contribute to the world. First, she thought through biology and then discovered, and for anybody who's ever met her, you know that Raisa literally, as I said, jumps off the page as somebody who inspires. So she has translated that to being our national leader in communications around the digital experience. She's built our community. She sets our strategy. She teaches us all how to be better. And every day she reminds us how to be great. So Raisa, over to you. Let's show everybody how great you are and how great it is to be a woman and a social worker in the Multiplying Good community.
Oh my goodness, that is the best introduction anybody can hope for from our very own CEO, Hillary Schaefer. And I want to notate that this month is Women's History and we are female-led, which makes a bunch of difference, especially this month. Thank you so much for that intro, Hillary. I so appreciate you being here. And I'm so excited to see all of you out there today in the digital world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are a woman and you are watching us, happy Women's History. I hope that you have told another woman how much she means to you if she has impacted you this month. And if you're watching us and you're a social worker, happy National Social Work Month. We are so happy to have you here with us for this conversation. And I just want to let you know, if you're new to our community, straight off the bat, you've never met us before, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today and for staying connected. We believe here, as our CEO said, in the power of service to transform lives. And it is my honor to sit with this panel today to discuss how their dual expertise affects both their personal and their life experience. So I'm not going to hold you any longer. I do want to say that before I bring on my friends and colleagues, that we want you to stay engaged. So make sure, it's our only rule, make sure that you comment, let us know how you're feeling about the conversation, ask a question to our wonderful panelists, and we will make sure that we receive those questions and try to answer them back and make you a part of the conversation. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce this excellent and exceptional panel that I have. And I'm going to start with introducing our very own Kelly Wolf. Kelly is a native New Yorker, and over the last 13 years, she has worked with nonprofit organizations, overseeing initiatives in cancer prevention and early detection, behavioral and mental health, and cause-based impact investing. That sounds super cool. Today, she is the Chief Impact Officer with Multiplying Good, and she leads strategic brand partnerships, marketing and communications initiatives, and she also oversees our core recognition program, the Jefferson Awards. Concurrently, while she was doing all of that, for 10 years, she worked as a social worker in New York City's outpatient mental health space, primarily serving high-risk populations. And now she serves as a clinician within a therapy practice grounded in inclusion and social justice. Yay. Kelly also sits on the board of We Got Us Now, a national advocacy organization built and led by children of incarcerated parents. And she graduated with her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from the New School and received her Master of Social Work degree from New York University. I am about to bring on Kelly Wolf. Hi, Kelly. How's it going?
Doing great, Raisa. How are you?
I'm doing okay today. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Really excited to be here and be part of this conversation.
Yes, we're excited to have you. Thank you so much. And we're about to bring on another one of our extraordinary colleagues to join Kelly, Jacqueline Munoz. Jacqueline, before joining Multiplying Good, worked for the Department of Children and Family Services in Los Angeles County as a children's social worker, serving marginalized children and families from multicultural and different socioeconomic backgrounds who have been victims of abuse. She collaborated with an array of outside community partners to educate, empower, and equip these families with the tools necessary to become independent of the child welfare system. Jacqueline holds a postgraduate degree in social work from the University of Southern California and a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from California State University, Long Beach. Jacqueline is eager and passionate to apply her social work leadership skills in building and driving these programs at Multiplying Good and all that encompasses its success. So I'm going to bring in our executive director, Jacqueline Munoz in Los Angeles. Hi, Jacqueline. How are you? Oh, you're on mute. You got to take yourself off mute really quick.
Hi, Raisa. Hi, Kelly. I'm really excited to be here. It's an honor for me to join this wonderful panel of women that are changing the world and making it a better place.
I agree. And we are so excited to have you. And so we're going to bring in another colleague that we know. Her name is Nikki Marbre. And Nikki, after earning her Bachelor of Arts degree from Duke University and her Master of Social Work degree from UNC Chapel Hill, started her career in inpatient and outpatient drug and alcohol counseling before transitioning into prevention work with the YMCA of Delaware, where she managed youth programs to prevent bullying, drug and alcohol use, and juvenile delinquency. Nikki was also the Delaware statewide coordinator for Stewards of Children, which teaches adults how to prevent child sexual abuse. In addition to serving as Multiplying Goods program manager in Delaware, Nikki is an active volunteer for Delaware 4-H, where she has served as secretary and president of the Delaware 4-H Foundation. Nikki also volunteers her time as a board member of the Delaware State Fair and Delaware Youth Leadership Network. I am happy to introduce you to Nikki. Hi, Nikki.
Hi.
How's it going?
Doing great here in Delaware.
That's good to hear. We're so happy to have you join us today. And now I'm going to move on to another one of our colleagues, Charlie Lewis. And Charlie was born and raised in Los Angeles. She has always had a passion for education and ensuring that equal opportunities are provided to all youth, regardless of their background. She graduated from the University of Southern California in 2018 with a policy background, and she is now completing her master's degree in social work while interning with us here at Multiplying Good. You can find her working with the Los Angeles Students in Action teams as a program manager, and we are so happy to have her.
Hi guys,
Charlie.
thanks for having me.
And now, last but definitely not least, I'll try to figure out if you guys can figure out the connection between me and this next guest. But she is a friend of the organization, and her name is Vivian Walden. Vivian received her Master of Social Work degree from the University of Michigan with a concentration in interpersonal with individuals and a minor in administration. She received her Bachelor of Social Work degree from Mississippi Valley State University. Her expertise in the human behavior services conglomerate extends well over 30 years. Throughout her career, she has serviced children, youth, families, and adults in systems of foster care, adoptions, group homes, mental health, and education and housing. She is also the founder and executor of Home for the Soul Outreach, which is a ministry servicing homeless and impoverished families, utilizing a holistic approach to support their physical, emotional, social, and spiritual well-being. And when she's not doing that, you can find her as the Chief Managing Director of Breath of Life for the Homeless Initiatives Department. I'm so glad to welcome our final panelist, Vivian Walden.
Hi, everybody. It's an honor to join you all today.
Thank you so much, Vivian. And now we will go ahead and get into this panel that we have here today. So I want to ask all of you, if I can, if you'll allow it. What was your motivation to choose social work as a profession? So I'm going to start with Charlie.
Thanks. So I've always been interested in, as you mentioned, closing the education gap, and I wanted to ensure that every child has the opportunity to receive a good education. I knew this was my passion to go into education reform, and I knew that in order to do this, I would need to be or have the clinical skills to work with students and work with this population. And so my mentor mentioned that social work would be the best opportunity for me to be able to do that. So that's why I'm studying it, and that's where I am today.
That is awesome, Charlie. That's a great way to get into the field. Kelly, what about you? What was your motivation to choose social work as a profession?
Thanks. Yeah, I had been studying psychology in college, and I then studied abroad in South Africa and worked in a outreach program with University of Cape Town and worked with amazing young people in Cape Town. And when I came back for my senior year of college, really realized I didn't want to spend the next few years in research, and I really wanted to work with people and understanding how community and individuals interact and how that impacts their health. And so social work was really the avenue to allow me to learn that. I had been working in nonprofit a little bit in college, and so felt like it was the education I needed to really understand systematically all of the things that impact us as individuals and us as community. And it was the path I took, and I'm really glad I did.
That is awesome. Another great response to that question. Nikki, what about you? What was your motivation to choose social work as a profession?
I am practical, if nothing else. And social work was a great way to stay in the field of psychology and helping people and have a really practical degree that I could take a lot of places. And I do feel like, as you were reading, my bio, I've had 3 separate careers, and yet I've been able to use my degree in all of them and pivot. And it's really unique to not have to spend 30 years. That idea of spending 30 years in one job or one area did not appeal to me. So it was really the breadth of options and things you can do, and that you can really change up and help people in different ways and stay excited about helping people.
That is an awesome answer. I love that you talked about the pivot, because clearly in 2020, that was all that we did. And we're still finding ways to continue to do that as we navigate the new normal. So that's an awesome answer. Jacqueline, what about you? What was your motivation to choose social work as a profession?
Thank you, Raisa. I knew early on that I wanted to be in a field where I can help and impact lives. In high school, initially, I thought that I wanted to become a doctor, so I took a assistant nursing program, and through that program, I got the opportunity to sit with a patient that was in the hospital, and she had just experienced a major loss in her life, and it was there that I found the passion for the healing of the person, the whole person. And it was very fulfilling for me to be able to have the privilege and honor to be part of her healing process. That started my journey in searching a field where I can do that. And I, through research, found social work, and found that through multidisciplinary approaches and through different systems, that's exactly what social workers do. They help individuals through different avenues, helping to heal them, and that was very taking for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Vivian, what about you? What was your motivation to get into social work?
Well, this may sound a little strange, but it wasn't as much as a motivation as it was a calling. Mm-hmm. I decided on a major in my sophomore year, and in searching the curriculum, I needed to find something that was naturally me. And naturally me was being compassionate about others, their welfare, their needs. I was also a person who could not stay in one place. I was sort of an evangelist, let me say it that way, in terms of helping people. And I found that the social work profession was multidimensional, and there were different disciplines. And so if I wanted to work one-on-one or individually with persons or families, I can go into that field or choose that particular discipline. Also, there was community action. Also, there's policies and procedures in certain areas that you can go in. So I had to find something that fit me naturally, so that I wouldn't have to work so hard for it. And then for the field or the curriculum or the major to train me more, to guide me, and to teach me.
Awesome. Awesome. I love how this panel is so diverse, just in the perspectives and like your interests and why you got into it. And that sort of leads into our next question, because what I'm hearing is that social work is so broad. So all of you, I think, have different concentrations based on your bios and what you said for your motivations for either what you have done or what you're studying in Charlie's case. So can you give me a little bit of background on what is your particular concentration in social work? So I know I heard it in some bios, but for the people out there who are not familiar at all with social work and what it can do, like what is your particular service and like what did you do in that particular service? A little bit more of a breakdown. Nikki, I'm going to start with you.
So when I started my career in social work, I was really working on a micro level, and Charlie, they might not even call it that these days, but I was working with individuals and in counseling, and that was in drug and alcohol counseling. So I still have a real passion and compassion for people who are working through addiction and seeking help and services, inpatient and outpatient, and through self-help in any other way. But then I really transitioned into prevention work, and that gets on a more macro level of trying to prevent problems. And usually that's with people that have been identified as being at risk of some sort. Could be they have major risk factors, or it could be they're a teenager. So they're at risk of different things. It could be just the group that they're in. And then by coming to Multiplying Good, I really feel like I went from the micro to macro to really big macro of social change of, we work with students that aren't really, most of them aren't at risk for anything, but they have such a great capacity to really change the world and to really do great things through their service to others, and that they can be lifelong volunteers and lifelong helpers to others. So I still have a real love for all those different areas. Child sexual abuse prevention was something that I don't think I got those words out before I started working in that realm, but still, a real passion to help people understand how they can prevent those issues, as well as bullying and delinquency and all those other topics that I've worked on.
That is such a good explanation. Thank you so much. That sheds a light on your part of the social work conglomerate, I'd like to say. Jacqueline, what about you?
When I went back to school, initially I thought I was going to choose a mental health concentration. And it was after a global immersion class at USC at the Philippines, when we went to the Philippines, that I fell in love with the macro part of our field. I realized how important it is to have leaders, decision-making folks that have a holistic lens, making the decisions that impact the people we serve. So I chose, at that time, it was called COPA, Community Organizing, Planning, and Administration. So then I use what I've learned, use the clinical skills as well, because we're social workers, so we're still trained with those clinical skills and also the leadership skills in the job that I do today.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I see as you start talking about the social work lingo, all the heads are like, yep, yep. So all the panelists know what's going on here. Vivian, what about you? What is your particular concentration and why were you there? That's the work that you started out in. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, my concentration, of course, was interpersonal with individuals. That kind of also went into individuals and families. And my minor was administration, but I learned it doesn't matter who you work with in terms of families or groups. There's always an individual perspective that needs to be sort of kind of I guess a growth in order for people to go from one level to the next. So if you're dealing with or experiencing any type of social economic problems, any type of clinical or mental health issues, if you're working with relationships, even in groups of fostering or adoptions, it is the individual's mind that needs to be at a certain level in order to move to the next level. In order to work anything out, and it doesn't matter what group, as I stated before, the individual mind is what needs to change. And so my thought is, if I can motivate, change the mindset, work with the person individually on a mental level, work with them on a spiritual level, and then everything else that they're dealing with when it comes to a group, whether it's a family again, whether it's working with other people, whether it is just going on a trip, you understand, with a group of people, it is the mindset that needs to change, because individually, a lot of things happens to people mentally, and it affects the whole body. And in order for us to grow, in order for us to understand, in order for us to have knowledge of, in order for us to move forward, we must get to the person's individual trauma, individual mindset in terms of how they feel about things, and what can we do, what kind of tools can we give them to help them go to that next level. And when you talk about the administration part of it, I also wanted to be on the micro level, as Jacqueline and Nikki were talking about, in terms of decision-making power, because there's not enough decision-making power of us, people who understand, human behavior, people who have worked with people in that field. There are often people who sit at the powers that be who don't understand it. They haven't had the experience, but they're good at making decisions about other people's lives that they don't understand.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fields, but we won't get into that today. Thank you so much for explaining that. That is so relevant to where we find ourselves today. And I can see some of our people who are engaging with our conversation. And Deneen, who is also our VP of Communications here, says changing one's mindset is so hard. I agree. And let's not talk about the older that we get, how much more challenging it is to change a mindset. So thank you for that, Vivian. Kelly, what about you? What is your particular concentration in social work, and why? What's your why?
Thank you. I've had kind of the opposite journey of our panelists who had started micro and went macro. I entered social work with the intention of the education supporting nonprofit and policy macro level work. And in my education had real clinical field placements, working one-on-one with individuals in mental health settings, and also concurrently working here at Multiplying Good, really recognizing as Vivian, Jacqueline, and Nikki have all said, kind of that relationship between really understanding the needs from the individuals to inform the programs and policies. I was really able to get kind of this cyclical experience where I felt really grateful to be working directly with those who programs and policies are set out to support and contribute to, and also really being in it with them to understand what the needs really are. The tenets of social work: service, social justice, dignity and worth of a person, importance of human relationships, right? It felt really connected to me as working one-on-one, and also being able to work at an organization and in a space at the macro level where those are also the core tenets, right? The power of service to other people needs to be informed by those people so that it is not disconnected. And so from a population standpoint, I've worked with all sorts of populations, but most of my experience specifically was around alternative to incarceration programs, working with individuals who have experience with the criminal justice system, and how mental health and how other systems play into that experience. And so working both at an organizational and at an individual level to really recognize that cycle of how much it's important to have individuals informing the programs and policies that are going to impact them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is definitely awesome, and thank you for that contrasting perspective, which is why we're here and what we need. And Charlie, I'm gonna just ask you this question because you're still steeped in your work and obtaining your master's of social work degree right now. Has your passion changed from when you went into your program to where you are now? Like, do you know when you come out what you want to do? Are you gonna stick around with Multiplying Good? You don't have to answer that. But like, what's going on with you? Like, where are you at right now in your program?
So I'm about to finish my first year, and I've always been focused on education reform and changing the system somehow, maybe. So that's very macro, and I am currently focusing on social change and innovation within my field. But obviously, I've had a lot of time working with Jacqueline, and she's told me a lot about her experiences, which have not necessarily made me want to go into micro skills, but I've definitely wanted to look into them a little bit more. I was so focused on just the macro aspects. And I thought that was my only path, but I think there's so much more to it. And like Kelly said, she was focused on macro and then kind of diverted to micro. So I think there's more that I can do on both lenses, but right now I'm focusing on macro skills.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for that. And so that's going to dovetail a little bit into our next question. And I want to reserve this for Kelly, Nikki, and Jacqueline. Do you feel that your social work expertise has helped you being a staff member of Multiplying Good? I mean, I heard Nikki touch on it before very clearly that she thinks that it has. But Jacqueline, Kelly, and Nikki, if you can go a little bit more specific, especially because Kelly, I know that you have a unique experience with being able to obtain all that you wanted to do in social work and working here at Multiplying Good. So I'm going to start with Jacqueline. Do you feel like that's helped you being a staff member here at Multiplying Good, having your social work experience?
Yes, absolutely. With over 10 years of experience working in the Los Angeles communities, helping over hundreds of families with my experience and my master's degree, social work master's degree from USC, I definitely bring a holistic lens to the table. As social workers, we are trained to be active listeners. So I pay attention to not only what is being said, but also what is not being said. And I am able to connect with our students and advisors and understand them and empathetically connect with them. We are great relationship builders as well. So I've been able to build beautiful relationships with our partners, our students, and our board as well. So my skills have definitely helped me as the executive director here in LA.
Awesome. That's so awesome and unique because I don't know many other places that have a culture that can kind of cultivate and use and tap into different sets of experiences. So that's awesome. Kelly, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your rise of like doing what you wanted to do in social work and being here at Multiplying Good and that unique experience that you may not have gotten anywhere else.
Yeah, thank you. You know, my trajectory as a social worker is somewhat inextricably intertwined to my time here at Multiplying Good. This was the job I got out of my master's program. And as I shared, I had that kind of realization in my education that I wanted to have both sets of experiences. I wanted to work at the macro policy program nonprofit space, and I wanted to have a continued growth of my clinical skills. And they were seemingly always going to be in conflict because a little bit that's many social workers experience having to make a choice. Am I going to be a clinician? Am I going to be out in the world in this other capacity? And I was unwilling to choose. I was really, really committed to finding a way to do it all. And Multiplying Good has supported me in doing that. You know, my clinical license took 7 years and 2,000 client hours and 100 supervisory hours, and Multiplying Good and the team here supported that, said, I understand that this is important and it's going to make you even better at your role here because of the ways these skills intersect and because of our dedication to the power of service to others and wanting that to be intrinsically true. And so for the last 7 years, that has been my experience. I've worked here for 7 years, and it was 7 years to get my clinical license. And in being supported in that way, I have been able to really, really have that experience, that cyclical experience. How do you work through program and policy and thinking about systems and ways in which we engage in the large scale, and how to working with individuals and really understanding the need make us do that better. And that has been my entire experience in both roles. So it's been pretty incredible.
That is awesome. And Nikki, would you like to add anything else from before to this conversation? You know, you're a program manager out in our Delaware community, and you do this work on the ground all the time, every day. Do you find that your degree has been helpful to help you succeed in that?
Yeah, I mean, you all have touched before on the tenets of social work, the basic tenets, and every day, and I think probably I say this in meetings and I don't even think about it because it's just ingrained in me, but you start where the client is. And in our case, we start where the student is. And that might not be the service project we think that they're capable of, but it's where they are today. And that is no more true than this year. And, you know, we have some students and action teams that where they're at is still talking, but at least they're talking about serving others, and that's okay. And that's something that is really hard to tell someone else, like to tell another adult to be cool with that idea. But it's just really ingrained with us as social workers that we start where the person we're working with is, and we respect that and honor that, and then help move them forward as appropriate and help be a partner in that movement and not tell them what to do, but help them come up with a plan to move forward. So that counseling aspect of social work is very similar in what we do in our work. And then the other one is that some days just we are the caring adult, the supportive adult that a student might need. And that might not get to our end goals of having students do quality service projects to others, but you never know that, 5 years from now, a student could say, you know what, there was this nice lady who listened to me, who asked me how I was today. We might be that caring adult in their life. And we really can't underestimate that as any adults, that we could be that caring adult to a middle school or high school student.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And we're kind of getting into a lot of the experiences that you all have had. So I want to direct a particular question to Vivian and Jacqueline. We tend to live this life through different lenses as we're different people. And so in the realm of social work, Vivian, what has it been like to be a Black woman in social work? And how has that impacted the work that you've had to do, whether it is your experiencing the work or having to lean on your life experience as a Black woman to help push the work forward in any area?
Well, Raisa, I can say to you that just being a Black woman, not even saying a Black woman in social work, that's where it began. Mm-hmm. So just being a Black woman and then a Black woman in the field has been ever changing. It's been a struggle and it's been a fight. When we talk about systems that you have to deal with on a professional level, has been a struggle and it has been a fight. And it's been difficult because when you get into a field, when you're working with people, trying to make sure that their needs are being met, needs that every human deserves. And also trying to make sure that their social and emotional needs are met. When you're in a system, it's really difficult, especially when you are working at a place or employed someplace who is insensitive about what a need is for a particular person. And it's sad to say that I've had to first deal with me just as a Black person. So if you look at me just as a Black person, you can imagine what it's like looking at me as a Black person in social work, because it's all one and the same. I'm Black and I'm helping Black and minority people. And so we all have needs. But not only did I have to deal with systematically with me just being a Black social worker, I also had a difficult time trying to fight for human rights, for the community and for the culture that we serve. And to see the suffering of people and to know that they are, again, decision-making powers that be that are making these decisions made it even that much difficult. When we talk about the insensitivity of how it should be, like every place that you work, every place that you are, even just being a regular person, you should be able to experience true diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so, as a Black woman, having to face certain situations where there was no diversity, where there was no equity, that there was no inclusion, and I'm not just talking about race. I'm talking about as a profession. I'm talking about as an employee. I'm talking about as just being part of a group. It's been ever changing. It's been a struggle, and it's been a fight. And I began to learn that early on.
Yeah.
When I was at Mississippi Valley State University, yay, going there, having to join the National Black Workers of the Social Workers. So there shouldn't really have been a need. I should have been able to just be a member of National Association of Social Workers, but there was a need for the National Associations of Black Social Workers as well, because there were things that we had to fight for in order to make things inclusive again and equitable and diverse for the people that we serve.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is so enlightening and insightful for other people who might not have had that experience. And Jacqueline, I want to ask you the same question. What has it been like being a Latina woman, in social work, and how has that affected your own experience and what you put out in the world for others?
Raisa, I want to share with you a story that revolves around my time here. I'll never forget a particular field visit when I went out to visit a group of our Students in Action a team. And I'll never forget what their advisor told me. She said, the students are very excited that you are here. You are like a celebrity to them. And that impacted me. It reminded me how important it is for the next generation of leaders to see people that look like them in leadership roles. It's an honor and a privilege for me to mentor them and to help them. I have a responsibility to the Latinx community to give back and help the next generation of leaders. Like people help me achieve my goals.
That is awesome. And yet another great experience from your lens, being a Latina woman in social work. I really appreciate you too. So just a couple more questions before we get out of here, and I'm gonna call in a couple of people, but I want to know from some of you, considering what's happened in the country around racial injustice, right? It's a sensitive topic for some people, but you guys are in the field of helping others and your service to others, and that's like service to all. Basically, what are your thoughts around the field of social work? Do you think that it's changing for the better or for the worse, seeing where we are in the tensions of this country? I remember hearing a while back that, we're talking about police reform. A suggestion was made that when police have to deal with tough calls that could be concerning mental health or anything else, that we should probably allow social workers to be able to go on those calls so that there could be more understanding instead of just reaction. So that's kind of the vein of this question. What do you all think about something like that actually happening? And that's what we mean by for better or for worse, not just how you feel about your own field, but considering what's going on. What are your thoughts around that? Charlie, I want to start with you.
Sorry. Thanks, Raisa. So I obviously haven't been in the field that long, so I have limited experience as to how it's changed. But this whole topic was going on when I was about to start, and I actually remember my mom saying that exact line to me that you said, and I was like, yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, I think it's fair to say that like social workers are those striving to create social change will play an integral role in driving reform, just because we have the clinical skills to be able to do it. And that's not to say that the other people helping don't have those skills, but I feel like we're just taught on how to be the first responders, how to maybe help in that role. And I think that it will be really beneficial to have us there as well, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for your perspective there. Nikki, what about you?
I'm not sure. I think it's currently going on. We actually have a pilot program in Newcastle County, Delaware, with bringing in social workers and clinicians on overdose cases specifically, and with the goal not being arrest, but the goal being treatment and getting people the help they need, and decriminalizing, also helping. If you're also using and you're with someone, that you can call 911 and get help and not be in fear of criminal repercussions. And that's been it was a pilot program a couple of years ago, which was actually pretty revolutionary. But those kinds of solutions of not saying this is the only way we have to do things. And frankly, if that pilot doesn't work, then that's okay too. And we can go a different direction. But we really can't say, well, no, we just can't do it that way because we've always done it this way. And I do think that there is an appetite in the American public now to try things. What we're doing is not working. And especially when we think about criminal justice. One of the programs I worked on was a pure court program. Instead of just kicking kids out of school, restorative justice. And it's not that we don't hold people accountable for their actions, but we also say, what were all the things that were going on that put somebody in this place, and restorative justice measures to move forward and to really stop the prison pipeline from happening. And so I think that we're in a really good position as social workers to help, and to I think that the public wants that.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. And Kelly, I'm going to let you get in on this too, because I know you have a passion for social justice. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about all that's going on and, the value of social workers during this time?
Yeah, thank you, Raisa. I think similarly to what we've been talking about this whole time, right? This connection and the training that social workers have, and the need that is so clearly out there in every capacity around trying different things, interventions that are not, that are supportive, that are meeting people where they are, that are grounded in social work practice in spaces like criminal justice, right? I worked at an alternative to incarceration mental health clinic for 7 years, and often engaged with police being the first people called to a mental health crisis. I think what this last year and what has been coming out is allowing for is what Nikki said, right? Like, there is a desire for different interventions. And I think both service and social work lend themselves to be those interventions, right? Our ways of identifying needs in communities and figuring out, either as a social worker or as people who are dedicated and learning how to do meaningful service, like those who engage it with multiplying good, are really looking at what the community needs or what the individual needs, as opposed to something getting decided, like Vivian was talking about, up here and then getting pushed down, right? And so I think it really speaks to both what multiplying good does and what the social work profession does in terms of thinking about individuals and communities, learning from them, learning how to meet them where they are, and to intervene in that way. And I think it's critical at every level.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I have a specific question before we get out of here. So this question I want to direct to both Nikki and Charlie, and I'm going to ask one final question to all the panelists. So Nikki and Charlie, due to COVID-19, as everybody has seen, we've seen the escalation of social media use. And, you know, social media has become a part of everything we do, the way we work, the way we communicate, where we get our news, how our children learn, and how people participate in service. Are you leveraging social media to innovate on your work as a social worker and as a part of Multiplying Good? And like, what are the benefits and what have you seen in using social media as a tactic to, like, you know, be included into your work now? Nikki, go ahead. I'll start with you.
Of course, we are definitely trying to engage with our youth via social media. It's a double-edged sword because sometimes, you know, there's fatigue there. They're on social media a ton. So we're trying to definitely engage them in different ways. But one part, and Raisa is definitely a partner with us in this and helping us to use social media in the most, you know, effective way possible. And one part of that is if any social media you're involved with, posting regularly and posting content that's relevant. And for us with Multiplying Good, you know, relevant content is inspiring content. And that is ways for our constituents, our students, our advisors, our community to see people doing good and see people doing, especially this year, smaller projects that maybe aren't as big. And they can really feel like I can join in with that. I can help with that. And helping our students to tell that story in a really short social media bite, and really helping them to express what they did, why they did it, and how other people can get involved. So definitely meeting them where they are, you know, using everything, maybe a little TikTok here and there if we need to engage them where they are, and so that they're able to take in the information.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And I am giving all the shameless plugs today for this self-serving question as I'm leaving this panel. And you should follow at Delaware for Good on Instagram. And as Charlie is coming up, at Los Angeles for Good on Instagram to see some of those innovative things that they're doing. Nikki is a pretty awesome TikToker. And Charlie, what about you?
I was actually just going to say that too. I was watching Nikki's TikTok and how she puts them on Instagram, and they are so great. It's so funny. She really, I mean, we all try to really connect with our students through Instagram and through the different platforms. And I think that's a really good way to do that because obviously our students are on it and that's how we should be connecting with them and building a relationship with them. But I just think Nikki does a great job at it because she uses TikTok and makes them funny and really utilizes her skills in a way that kind of allows the students to work with her. So big shout out to you. You do great. And really proud to be on a team that uses social media to do that.
Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. As you know, I love social media. Thank you, Charlie. You're too kind. And the last question for all the panelists that I'm going to ask before we get out of here is, what advice would you give your younger self? I mean, Charlie's already so young, but anyways, like, what advice would you give your younger self, either pertaining to social work, why you went into social work? Like, what would you tell your younger self now that you know so much that you know now? And Vivian, I'm going to start with you in answering this question. What would you tell your younger self as it pertains to your journey in social work?
Well, Raisa, I would tell my younger self to, Vivian, explore your options regarding the different disciplines of social work and plan a trajectory in the area where you can achieve the most effective and effective outcome for the people in which you serve. I would say to include in that, as an educated, articulate, creative, and innovative African American, I would say try to find ways to build continuously, and don't be afraid to grow.
Yeah. Absolutely. I will take that with me myself. Yes, Kelly, the snaps. Jacqueline, what about you? What would you tell your younger self?
I would say, Jacqueline, you're going to have the privilege to serve and impact many lives. Although you might not see the impact and transformation happen right away, you are making a difference. Don't give up. Fight on.
Yes, I received that one as well. This is such a good way to close. What about you, Kelly?
I would say to my younger self to be patient to trust that the things that you're passionate about are meaningful, even if it doesn't always feel rewarding in the moment. And I would tell myself how lucky I am to connect with individuals, to be the witness of human resiliency, and to be in a space where making a difference is valued. And I would just tell myself to trust that even in it when it feels hard, to be patient, because it's really, really what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes, I received that one as well. Good advice. Nikki, what about you?
I received this advice later on, but I would want to tell my younger self, say yes. Say yes to opportunities. Say yes to internships. Say yes to organizations that need help, boards. It is invaluable to get to try things out. And those experiences might lead you down a path where, a topic or a group of people or a population that you find a real passion with. And I think about all the time in my 20s when I had all this wasted time that I watched terrible reality TV, that I could have done more. And I'm pretty proud of what I have done, but say yes and ask for more opportunities, because you just don't know where those paths are going to lead. And sometimes they lead to just really great things.
Yes, Nikki, I appreciate that one as well. And come on, Charlie, as the young one of our group. I know you're not that old, but what would you tell the self before going into this path, maybe that you would want yourself to know?
I think coming from and hearing from all of you guys, I think a big thing that I would tell myself is not to just stick on the macro path and kind of continue to look at other opportunities on the micro path as well. I've realized what I want to do, but there's also so much more that I can do. So just kind of being open-minded and continuing on with my school and with macro and micro skills as well.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank all of our wonderful panelists for joining us today. You all were awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. My colleagues see me all the time, but my friends don't happen to, and Vivian. So thanks for hanging out with me. Thank you for sharing your expertise, for talking to us about how your service and social work and the service that you're doing now affect your life and professional experience. I hope to have you all back again to do something more later. And we will see all of you who participated soon. Thank you so much for staying active and engaged. And if you haven't heard today, follow us on all the things: YouTube at Multiplying Good, Facebook at Multiplying Good, LinkedIn at Multiplying Good, Instagram at Multiplying Good, and Twitter at Multiplying Good. And we'll see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Raisa. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.